Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be talking about the updated Runechild Sorcerer. As you can probably already tell in my face, I approve. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over all the abilities gained in the subclass and the changes that were made from the original version that we had rated before.
Yes.
So with those changes, we're going to tell you if we have any updates to our scores, which we do.
Spoiler alert.
We definitely have some updates to the scores on there for the roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy based on how the abilities change. Your potential in those scenarios.
Yes.
So, all that being said, we also have our giveaway for D&D Beyond Players Bundle.
Yeah,
Make
free
sure you
stuff.
like,
Nice.
comment, and subscribe to be entered in that. And thank you again to our sponsor, Seeds of Decay Kickstarter.
Yes.
Make sure you check them out. Lots of awesome stuff. Great art. Great quality.
They're partnered with Hit Point Press.
That tells you a lot
see
right
their
there.
stuff from there, you know if they're putting their stamp of approval on it. Quality stuff.
Definitely worth a look. There was scalable monsters, magic items, character options, all kinds of cool stuff.
And you know how we love scalable things.
Yes, definitely. Speaking of scalable things,
Essence Rings.
let's go.
This is a very unique subclass, is because this is the only, it's got its own special unique mechanic. That's how the whole thing is based around. They are the Essence Runes. So you have an Essence Rune equal to your level in Sorcerer. As you start off with 1 at level 1, you get additional 1 for every level you got in Sorcerer. All makes sense. They are considered inert by nature when you first have them. You have to trigger them in order for them to actually be active, be charged runes, and be used. At the end of each of your turn, when you spent 1 or more sorcery points, a number of essence runes equal number of sorcery points you spent become charged runes. So if you use one of your meta magic effects and you spend 2 sorcery points to do that, 2 of your runes now become charged runes, which can then be used for the other features that are here. Also, as a bonus action, you may spend 1 sorcery point to convert 2 essence runes and making them charged runes. So they go from inert runes to being charged to being usable. If you have 5 or more charged runes, you emit bright light in a 5-foot radius and dim light additional 5 feet. If you expend a charged rune to use one of your Runechild features, it returns to being an inert essence rune. Any charged runes also revert to inert status when you finish a long rest. So at the start of every day, you have no charged runes. And at the end of the day, when you go to sleep for the day, anything that you had left over that you didn't spend, they go back to being inert runes on your body somewhere.
Yes, so there are some changes made to this, which are actually pretty important. Before, in the original version, it was a bonus action to expend any number of sorcery points to charge equal number of runes. Okay, now you just use a bonus action to expend 1 sorcery point for 2 charges. So you're actually getting twice as many charges per sorcery point, but you're limited to how many you get per turn, essentially.
Right. So
I'll take 2 for 1 any day of the week.
Yes.
For that.
Yeah.
Also, there was originally an ability to use your action. If you had no charges or sorcery points remaining, you could use your action to charge 1 rune slot. That is gone, which I think is fair. It's fine. How often are you going to be completely out of sorcery points and charges? Not very often.
You're probably in a bad state.
And even at that, it was 1 that you got, and if you expended it, then you choose a whole other action, which it was really clunky. So they just got rid of that, and they just said, hey, we're going to give you a 2 for 1 deal, and I'll take that any day of the week.
That's right. Also, as part of that situation, apparently we're clerics now. We're getting free spells.
Woo! You heard that right.
Yeah,
free
right.
spells for sorcery.
Each of these spells counts as a sorcerer spell for you, but it does not count against the number of sorcery spells you know.
Oh, thank goodness.
And here's the really cool thing about this. Not only you get free spells, you can replace one spell you learn from this feature with another spell of the same level. The new spell must be an abjuration or transmutation spell, but from the sorcerer, warlock, or even the wizard spell lists. So you can grab from
That's pretty good.
The warlock spell list, which is about the same size as yours, not quite as big, but there's some different stuff on there. But the wizard list. You ever seen the wizard spell list?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Freaking big. It's real big. So
You are limited to the spell schools, though.
yes,
But still.
but abjuration's defensive magic. You a sorcerer. You ain't got no health. So,
Right.
Like grabbing Armor of Agathis, for example.
Could be interesting.
That's kind of fun, ain't it? So yeah, those didn't exist at all before, right?
Yeah, no, those were completely new. They added all those spells for free.
Free stuff. So that spell list is Long Strider, Protection from Evil and Good, Lesser Restoration, Protection from Poison, Glyph of Warding, Magic Circle, Death Ward, Freedom of Movement, Greater Restoration, and Telekinesis. You notice that spell list, a lot of that is RP stuff or spells that can be used in both, a lot like Telekinesis and the Protection froms, obviously.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, not a lot of those spells I want to be casting all the time. Correct. But here's the way you got to look at that. You don't have to worry about you choosing your limited number of spells known as a sorcerer to have these on hand. Because, are you going to need lesser restoration all the time? No. But there are times when you're really glad you have it, it's in your back pocket. Sorcerers, you can do a lot of cool potent stuff with, twin spell and things like that, but you only limited to a very small number of spells you actually know, and you can't just change those willy-nilly all the time.
Exactly.
Only when you level up. So getting this vastly helps you more than any other full caster, in my opinion. Also, at level 1, we do have a Glyph of the Aegis. You can release the stored arcane power within your runes to absorb or deflect threatening attacks. When you take damage, you can spend any number of charged runes as a reaction, and roll a number of d6s equal to the number of runes you expended and reduce the damage by the total. When you reach the 6th level, you can touch a creature as an action, expend up to 3 charged runes to transfer this protective power up to 1 hour to somebody else. Next time that creature takes damage within the next hour, it rolls 1d6 per charge rune spent, reduce the damage by the total. You can't transfer the power to a creature already under the effective Glyph of Aegis, and also the Glyph of Aegis die becomes a d8 at level 14.
There you go. So the main change with this one, the first part where you're just defending yourself stays the same, but the level 6 ability where you can give it to someone else was upgraded significantly, I would say. It was just a transfer of rune to reduce 1d6 damage. Now you can expend up to 3, so you get up to 3d6, but it also does scale to d8 eventually. So you can eventually give 3d8 damage reduction to someone else.
Yes.
Which is actually not bad.
Yeah, because normally if you're getting temp HP, it's like a d6 or an AD8 or like 2d4. So 3d8's pretty good chunk.
Yeah, it's going to come in handy here and there, for sure.
At level 6, we have one of Matthew Mercer's fun words he keeps making up. And a word, if you've watched Critical Role, you've seen him struggle with and they poke fun about it. He pronounces the word sigil. He calls it sigil at times, and but this is sigillic augmentation. I think he is getting back at people for the whole bit. So. It's part of it, pretty sure, because he likes to use a lot of fun words in here. Yeah, anyway, you can channel your runes to temporarily bolster your physical capabilities. When you make a strength, dexterity, or constitution ability check, you can spend a charged rune as a reaction to gain advantage on the roll. In addition, when you are forced to make a strength, dexterity, or constitution saving throw, you can use a reaction to expend a charged rune to gain advantage on the saving throw. Once you use this feature in this way, you cannot use it till you finish a long rest. So you can do the charged rune for the ability check much as you want, as long as you got charged rune to spend, but the saving throw is once a day.
Yeah. So the change with this one is actually pretty significant. It was use a bonus action and expend a charged rune for advantage on strength, dex, or con ability checks until the start of your next turn, which I'd much rather have use reaction when you need it and to try to guess when you're going to need it ahead of time. But you could also then expend additional runes for additional rounds.
Right.
So again, I think being able to use it as a reaction when someone fails or really needs it, just to give it to him right then is better than trying to preemptively do
trying to make a strength check to jump this gap, and you're like, it slipped and fell.
And maybe they don't even need it because before you had to do it beforehand.
Yeah,
before the
preemptively guessing is like
versus only using it when you have to use it.
Yeah, much better.
Because
to me, it's what reactions are designed for.
Yes,
and a lot of times you don't get a lot of good uses for your reactions. So I'm all about having chances to use my resources as available.
For sure.
Also, at level 6, we have Manifest Inscriptions. As an action, you can spend 1 charge rune to reveal hidden or invisible arcane traps, marks, runes, wards, sensors, or glyphs within 60 feet of you. They glow with dim light in a 5-foot radius for 1 minute. You have advantage on Arcana checks to discern the nature of any magic revealed in this way for the duration. The glyphs you reveal mean something in a language you can't read. You can understand them while they are glowing as if you knew that language. So to me, this kind of feels like a buffed and slightly modified Detect Magic, essentially, kind of, sort of.
It's similar.
It functions in a similar
Instead
way.
of knowing immediately what school it is, you get advantage on the check to figure out more about it. So it's similar.
But you also get the language effect that you don't normally get from Detect Magic if there's any kind of wording.
It's very comparable for sure. And the main change with this one, it was an action to expend a rune to detect magic things within 15 feet for 1 round. So we have quadrupled the distance.
Yes.
And 10 times... I can't think of the word. 10 times...
Tenfold?
Tenfold.
We've increased it by
tenfolded it.
Yeah.
So longer range and longer duration. And, of course, now we have the Arcana checks as well for the extra things that weren't part of it originally either. Yep. So it's just a straight-up buff across the board on that one.
At 14, we have Runic Torrent. Again, all the fun words. I love it. Whenever you cast a spell, you can expend 2 charged runes to cause the spell to deal force damage instead of its usual damage types. Additionally, all creatures targeted by the spell within the spell's area must succeed a strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be knocked prone or push up to 15 feet away from the spell's point of origin. Your choice. That's a very rare effect, and I kind of like the choice of knocking somebody on their butt or knocking them off the side of a wall. Love it. Once you use this feature, you can't do this to go again and finish a short or long rest. And this one has changed dramatically.
Yes, it really has. Originally, it was when you cast a spell, you can expend runes, charged runes, equal to your spell level to ignore resistances or immunities. So basically how they've kept that is they changed it to force damage.
Which is the best damage type.
Nothing, very, very, I should say nothing. Very, very, very few things have any kind of interaction with force damage.
Yeah. Like force and psychic damage, there's like less than 5%. I would probably say like 1 or 2%.
Very good.
Of the monster base resist those 2 damage types.
So essentially, you're changing it to force damage to bypass, get the same effect of ignoring resistance and immunity, but they're also giving that benefit for the knockback or prone condition.
Yep.
The big thing with that, though, is originally for the spell resistance, there was no limitation to it. You could do as much as you wanted, but you did have to expend more runes based on the spell level. Now it's only 2, but you only do it once per short rest.
Right, so now instead of having to spend 5 charge runes to get around the cone of cold resistance,
right?
And now it's just 2 to make it force damage instead.
Right. So, yeah.
And in general, I think it's going to be better overall, even if you can't do it as often.
That's the thing. I think even with that, is like Alex is saying, if you're casting a higher level spell, you're expending more charged runes. So you're actually probably going to end up using it, I'd say maybe even more often with short rest, potentially.
Well, because you'll be free too, because the penalty of doing so won't be as hefty.
And that's the thing too, is you might not even have enough charged runes before. You might not have had enough charged runes to even change the damage type.
Yeah.
From a big spell,
because without having to forego your other choices. It's like, if I drop all 7 just to do this one spell, I'm able to make my shield at all, or do any of the other things I want to do.
And the fun thing, too, synergy on here, too, is now you can bonus action expend 1 sorcery point to gain 2 expended runes, and then use those to pop that bad boy.
Yep, that's right. And finally, we have Arcane Exemplar at 18. You can use a bonus action to expend a charged rune to become a being of pure magical energy. While in your form, you gain the following benefits. And there's a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. Flying speed of 60 feet. Sure. Creatures have disadvantage on saving throws against your sorcerer spells. Heck yeah. You have resistance to damage by spells. Also, heck yeah. Whenever you cast a spell at first level or higher, you regain hit points equal to the spell's level. That's not bad either. I'm upset about that. Your form lasts until the end of your turn. You're thinking, that's not very long. However, you can expend a charged rune at the end of your turn to extend the duration until the end of your next turn. When your exemplar form ends, however, you are stunned until the end of your next turn. You only use this feature once per long rest. Yes. So, before it's completely different, the way the mechanics work on it. But to keep in mind, it only lasts for 1 turn when you choose to trigger it, but it only costs you 1 charge rune to do so. And as long as you spend a sorcery point in that turn, you can get a charged rune back on that turn, so you can keep it up. Over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes. So this is actually huge changes on here. Previously it was a bonus action to expend 6 charge runes for a magic transformation.
And it only made me hurt.
Lasts for 3 rounds plus 1 additional round per charged rune over 6.
Yep.
So you had to know at the beginning when you first used it how long you wanted it to last for.
Yep.
Instead of adding extra rounds at the end of each turn.
Yep.
But it also cost twice as much, essentially, because it was 6, and now it's one round. It was 6 charges for 3 rounds. Now it's 1 charge for 1 round.
Yep.
Significantly better. You don't have to try to stockpile charges.
Yes.
You can just use it and try to, each turn, get your sorcery points out there to keep it up.
You think about the total math of the original versions with this and the Runic Torrent. If you were to cast a level 6 spell and you want to change that to ignore the resistance, it would cost you 6 points. And with this originally at 18, if you've got 18 of your essence runes at level 18, just like you do sorcery points, you're going to have to spend 2/3 of your entire rune maximum to use your capstone and do the runic torrent once. And that's assuming you have 12 charge runes to spend at the time to trigger both of those things. Because they're not just, you've got 18 for the day, you have to create them and then do them.
Exactly.
So that's, it's a lot easier to create 1 or 2 a turn.
Yes.
To be able to spend 1 or 2 a turn and just kind of keep it going in this kind of really cool ebb and flow smooth thing to try to chunk, 5 or 6 or 7 at a time, so you then have enough to spend 5 or 6 or 7 at a time.
But that's not all. They also increased the flying speed. It was originally only 40 foot, so now it's up to 60.
Now you're getting it.
And the spell save DC was originally increased by 2, and now it is a disadvantage on your spell saves.
They say the math on that is 5.
Yeah, so plus 5, and it was plus 2, essentially. So, yeah, the disadvantage on your saving throws is huge. But, yeah, the other stuff is the same. Resistance to spell damage, regaining spell HP, and then, of course, the stunned. It was end of form. You can't move or take actions until the start of your next turn. Now it's just stunned condition, which, it's the same, basically the same thing. So, yeah, that is it. But it is a huge change, like Alex said, to be able to have access to it much easier and to be able to just keep it up with ebb and flow.
Because it still is once per day, so you're still popping it, but it's a lot easier to be able to get into that form and keep it going than just having to, like Jameson said earlier, you're having to choose to be able to trigger it ahead of time and knowing, do I want this to last for how long? Just kind of like with the sigillic augmentation, having to choose to give it, to get that buff before you to hope you might have to trigger that ability check, using it as a reaction once it happens. Overall, both are better changes.
Yes. So we'll try to jump straight into the score updates because
we had a lot to read through. This has already gone on a lot longer than normally would.
We're trying to keep it concise here. Roleplay value, interacting with the world around you, NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, things outside the initiative orders. We're talking about, not talking about class fantasy, history, lore, background. That's on you as a player. Can't rate you. You know the gist. You know how it goes. So all that being said, roleplay value. We originally gave it a 2.5.
Yep.
With the added spells.
Yep.
With the easier use of your abilities.
Yep.
The reaction for the strength, dex, and con stuff.
Yep.
The increase to the magic detection feature.
Yep.
And, technically, even the Runic Torrent could come into play if you're trying to push stuff in RP scenarios. It's niche, but it could be done.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of RP buffs across the board on here. We gave it from a 2.5 to a 3.5, a full point increase on that side of things.
On combat side of things, it's a similar situation because, and the biggest things are kind of what I've already talked about. For me, it was reducing all of the costs of these things because being able to, again, it makes it a very smooth and kind of ebb and flow thing instead of having to build chunk and then spend chunk. Being able just to spend 2 here, spend 1 here, it allows you to be able to do your things more often, which is going to tie into synergy stuff as well, obviously. But like your shield scaling up to a D8 obviously makes your shield much more potent. Runic Torrent change definitely helps because becoming force damage, like I said, very few things are just force damage, so it overall makes it better because it costs 2 as opposed to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or you wanted to freaking make Meteor Swarm force damage, which is going to be awesome. It's only going to cost 2 as opposed to fire and bludgeoning damage, which a ton of stuff resists fire and bludgeoning damage when you hit level 15 and on up. So that's going to be awesome to be able to do that as a sorcerer. They only cost 2 points. It would cost 9 to get them around the resistance of one type of that damage, not both.
Right.
And that because that spell has 2 different damage types there. So much better for your cost. And then your capstone getting, the disadvantage to your saving throws is a little bit better math-wise. They say it averages out to 5. I'm not going to argue with people who have had the computers do calculations on that to tell us it's better that way. Increase to the flying speed. And again, the cost to doing it, 1 charge to trigger this crazy buck-wild form, that as long as the combat's going to keep going and everything hasn't been knocked unconscious at the end of your turn, you know what? I'll spend a sorcery point as a bonus action to get 2 maroons.
Yep.
So now, guess what? I spent a sorcery points. I'm going to use that rune I created
to 2 more turns
to get 2 more turns of it. Or if I twin casted my Chaos Bolt level 1, I can turn around and do it again.
There you go.
It's much easier to keep things flowing. So we gave it also another whole point from a 3 to a 4 on your combat. Doing more stuff more often keeping everything's going.
Yes, and then lastly, the overall class synergy. Again, the way that this whole update and everything really helps the ebb and flow of the sorcery points and the charged runes, interacting with your spells and your meta magic. There's a lot of cool interactions that can be done with this, and almost every single ability on here is going to be giving you a bonus to your 2 primary things as a sorcerer, which are spell slots and sorcery points, and every single ability on here is going to buff that up, and they've all been increased. So we originally gave it a score of 4. We have increased the synergy from a 4 to a 5.
Kabang!
So knock it out of the park. So we increased overall 3 total points increase.
Yes.
So from 2.5, 3, and 4 to 3.5, 4, and 5.
Yep.
Big fans of the changes on here. Definitely makes it feel a lot more potent and into the theme of what originally was intended to be. And
like I said, we've said ebb and flow, I think 16 times in the last 5 minutes. But the point is, it makes this feel so smooth. Mm-hmm. And the reason we talked about, okay, is it worth going all the way up from 4 to 4.5 to even 5? And we didn't have to disagree or argue much. That yes, because if you don't want to spend the bonus action it takes on your turn to spend, 1 sorcery point to get 2 charge runes, you don't have to.
Right.
Which means this entire subclass doesn't have to interfere with what your base class is trying to do with you're spending your sorcery points either to do meta magic or to spend your sorcery points to convert them into spell slots so you're casting more spells.
Or vice versa, you get more sorcery points from your spell slots.
Yeah, exactly. So it just directly interacts with it, but it does not get in the way at all. It literally can just be a what's the word I'm looking?
Passive bonus.
Yeah. I'm trying to get into biology here because there's like symbiotic relationship. There we go. Words. I know big words too. We could sigillic and deluge and all these other fun words in here. But yeah, so the fact that they interact so well together, we kind of had this before we were reading this, thinking, okay, were any one of these we'd like to really try? We're like, man, that Runechild Sorcerer seems really, really cool. I'm just not sure how effective it's going to be because everything's just so expensive. You're not going to be able to build up enough runes, and but now both of us are like, one of us is going to play this. Next time we do a one shot, it's going to be so much smoother and easy to flow through in and out of what you're doing, and it just works. Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, that's it, guys. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Seeds of Decay, Kickstarter. Make sure you check them out. Awesome, cool stuff on there.
Yes,
it's going to be something you don't want to miss. So make sure you check that out. It has just recently launched. So get on it before it expires, because you know how these Kickstarters work. They're only available for a certain period of time. You got to get in early so you can get all the bonuses and all the fun stuff that comes along with being in the Kickstarter. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. You know when our new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.